Hello, guys. This is Dante, the guy with the guitar and a bunch of instruments. Some of you probably know me as a composer and interpreter of my song El Camino, which really has received quite the attention on Spotify, YouTube, and most services, or at least a lot more attention than I ever thought any of my songs would get. Some of the people have been engaging with me in the comments on one of the videos on YouTube for El Camino, and they asked me if I could make a tutorial for the song, which is what I'm going to be trying to do right now. A bit of a disclaimer, maybe. I will try to make this tutorial as for dummies, so to speak, as I can, since I have no idea on which level any given viewer might be. I'll just try to explain everything really as from scratch as I can. So if you're in a more advanced position, please bear with us and try to keep everyone in the loop and in the know on how to go with this song. This said, I'm going to be placing some structure below. I'm going to be making some markers on the YouTube video for you guys to be able to find whatever part you might be focusing on in any given time. We're going to be dividing this video into different segments. I'm going to make a first segment describing the initial intricacies of the song, some nuances you might want to be aware of before starting. I think if you understand these nuances, it might help you get over this kind of stuff a bit faster. Secondly, we're going to go over the chords. I'm going to play along the whole song and show you my hand what these chords are doing. We're naming the chords so you can more easily learn them. Next, we're going to go over the melody. I'll also try to show you where in the fretboard, which string, which fret I'm playing in order to make the melody. So I'm just going to play it real slow and show it to you guys. Lastly, we're going to paste this together. We're going to paste these chords and this melody together, put some arpeggio candy, let's call it that, on top of that, which is kind of what brings the song a bit more to life. And show you how you glue all this stuff together to end up with the final song. You're gonna have to forgive my terrible editing skills. I'm not a YouTuber in the classical sense of generating content. Making videos per se is not really what I'm doing. I'm more focused on the music. But this said, I hope this will help anyone who wants to learn the song just to be able to hop into it and learn it to your satisfaction. So without any further ado, let's get into it, and yeah, here we go. So let's begin with the song's intricacies and nuances, which you might want to be aware of. And the first one is one that is maybe not immediately obvious to some people, and it's the fact that this song has a rather weird signature, in the sense that it's changing all the time. Most people, at least in the Western world, were used to four by four kind of rhythm, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. To a lesser degree, a three tact based rhythm, which is what this song begins like. But over the course of the song, and particularly on what we could call the song's chorus, you will be having a 5/4 signature, which then changes to a 6/4. So I'm going to play this song in the background and try to explain this to you with my hands. Maybe make it a bit more obvious. I've had cases where someone's trying to play along with me and they seem to be thrown off, by these changes. And I can get why. They're completely unpredictable if you're in a jamming scenario. But once you have learned the song structure and you know when to expect these changes to happen, things become a lot easier and a lot more predictable for you. So if we begin playing the song, we have this 3 tempo, right? Quite standard waltz kind of thing. 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. But then we change. 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2. So in this one section, you really want to be aware of this kind of 5/4 timing, which is going to throw you off if you know that it's coming. So it's every time the song is doing this, you will have this. You will have this 5/4 and 6/4 things to deal with. So once you're aware of this, things become a bit easier. Now, the next thing you might want to have is capo. This is not a hard requirement. You can completely play the song without it. It's just going to sound different. It's going to be in a different chord, but it's not. It's not the end of the world. I'm using a capo because I like how it sounds in the key of C minor. If you don't have a capo, if you don't want to use one, although I would completely recommend it, you're just going to play it in A minor if you're using standard tuning. So you might like it better like this. It doesn't really matter. I do prefer using the capo on the C, on the third fret of my guitar. And I will describe the chords in this video as if there was no capo. So even though this is C minor for all acoustic purposes, I'm going to pretend it's an A minor just because it simplifies the chord description so much. Lastly, the thing you will need to have as well is a bit of a basic dominance or hold of your arpeggio game in your right hand. And if you don't have this, I'll be honest, this is going to be a bit of a hard song to play. But then again, you could just use the song to practice your arpeggio game if you're in for that. So on a very, very basic level, what you want to have here is you're going to be using your these three fingers on the last three strings of your guitar, while your thumb is going to be nailing the bass notes. So I think it's a bit better from this angle. You can see how each finger is usually busy with the same string. Now there will be times where you might want to pull them up one string. This is going to be more the exception than the norm, but more or less keeping your hand in this position with your hand resting usually on the top string, but also changing string as it goes is going to be a bit of a basic for the song. We're going to go into depth into the arpeggio later, but don't worry about making the song sound the exact same. Just have fun with it, make it yours, and as long as you are making some form of arpeggio, the song's not going to sound empty, and you don't have to go all the overkill of learning the exact things that I'm doing. I'm not sure I could do it myself. I'm not sure I play the exact same way every time, so don't beat yourself too much over it. So let's begin jumping into the practicalities of the song, and we're going to begin with the chords because this is the basis of everything, right? So one thing you need to be aware of is you're not going to be really playing full chords all the time. Yeah, it's not like when you're strumming the guitar, this kind of playing, but still keeping the hand around a certain chord is going to make it a lot more intuitive to know where you need to go. But we're going to get there later. So the first thing we're going to do is just show you which chords you're supposed to play. And yeah, if you're a bit more of a beginner player and you still want to start playing along the song, then yeah, you could very well strum to the song, and it would be a start. So I'm just going to go playing along with the song and strumming each chord once while naming the chord that I'm playing. And we're going to go into putting this together with the melody later on in the video. So here we go. So if we begin with the intro, then we're just dealing with an A minor, right? Here we go. A minor, G, 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 A minor, C, G, D, A minor, back to the previous sequence. A, G, A minor, 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 A minor, G, A, G, A minor, G, A minor, A minor, G, F, G, F, G, G, A minor, A minor, G, D minor, A minor, F, A minor, G, A minor, A minor, G, D minor, A minor, F, A minor, G, A minor. Go back to the previous sequence. Now we go back to the previous sequence, but there is a bit of a change. Yeah, G. This you know, right? G, A minor, A minor, G, F, G, F, G, A minor, A minor. Just as you know it from the beginning. Then we do the F thing again. A minor, G, F, G, F, G, A minor. So that's it for the chords. Alright guys, so now you know the chords for the song, right? But as I mentioned, for the most part you won't really be strumming chords. It is, however, quite relevant that you kind of stick to keeping your hands on the chord as well as the melody will allow. But we'll go into detail on that later. What is important though is that even though you're not playing chords per se in the classical way that you're strumming them, it is essential that you play the bass note of the chord in question. Now, if you don't know how this works, it's very simple. You can go back to the whole section where I'm describing the chords, naming them one by one, and you can forget about if it's a major or minor. There is no such thing as a major note or a minor note, only a chord. Only several notes in conjunction can make a chord, which can happen to be major, minor, and so many other variations. If you don't know where this is in your fretboard, now is a good time, or this might be a good excuse to learn it. Helps a lot. And please do remember, we are pretending that we don't have a capo on our guitar for the purposes of describing the chords in this video, just because it makes the positions of the hands so much easier to describe with the familiar shapes you would have if you wouldn't have a capo anyway. So all the notes I'm learning, they're transposed 3/2 steps upwards. This set, the descriptions I'm giving you in the chord section, A minor, A minor, G, A minor, just remove the minor major thing from the equation and just stick to the name of the note, A, G, whatever. And it works 1-to-1, yeah? So we're with the if you stick to the one note I'm naming during the chord section, you will hit the bass chord. So that should be pretty simple. On top of those bass notes, not bass chords. On top of those bass notes, we will put the melody, which we will go into detail in the next section. Next thing we're going to talk about is the melody of the song. And this song has 3 sections from a melody perspective, which I'm going to be showing you. I've been putting some thoughts on how to best show the audience in an easy way how to learn the melody. I think the best I can come up with is to use a single finger to show you across the fretboard which string and which fret I'm doing at any given time. If the string is supposed to be loose, then I'm going to be placing my finger on the capo here. And I hope this is going to help you. So, as I said, there's 3 sections in this. We're just going to call them 1, 2, and 3 because we're creative like that. And yeah, here we go. At first, you don't have really a melody going on. So you just have like this really short intro, you know, like. And then once the melody actually starts, this is what we would be calling part 1 or melody part 1. Part 2, we're going to call this section after the part I mentioned, the 5/4, 6/4 parts. The song goes back to this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 kind of rhythm. So once we go back there, this is what I'm going to call part 2 for the video's purposes, which goes like this. And then we go back to part 1. So after we've been through for a second time to this, the song goes back again to this 3/4 tempo. And there's a third melody which is a bit more all over the place. So let's go over that one now. And then it kind of repeats with a little variation. Of course, the playing with one finger only was for showing purposes. Of course, for the most part, you're going to be holding your hand in a position which kind of goes around a certain chord. We went over this already. So if we take the same melody, of course, you're going to be doing this mostly within the first 3 frets of your guitar, whatever key you're playing on. And if you're doing this, and you put this together with the previous version, with the chords version, or more importantly, the bass, then things begin to take shape. Yeah, we have let's take part 1. We have the first part we discussed, the melody. If we put this together with the bass note. So the rest of the arpeggios, the rest of this ear candy, let's call it, is not there yet, but it begins to take a recognizable shape, right? So you begin to identify this. as the actual song. So this is the basis of the song. So we're halfway there. We already have the melody going on. We put it on top of the bass notes we've shown earlier in the video, and things start to get there, right? We'll now go over a bit of the finer details in the song, and I'll go over them one by one. I think they're kind of important to notice and to learn because they add this little variety across an otherwise fairly plain song, if you will. So let's begin with this second part, where we were calling part one before, which is this. The first time we go back, so the second time this is played, the second half of it, you will notice the melody becomes a bit more complex in terms of it using double strings. So you already know this part of melody by now, yeah? So what we're gonna do is, in addition to that, we're gonna be playing with a rather finger, either the same fret and the string on top of that, or the next fret, so not here, but here. Still, in the string on top of that. You will always be playing the string on top of that. So this way becomes which you will pair, of course, with the bass notes you're going to be hitting in the arpeggios, which we'll go to later, right? So. The next detail to be aware of or to mind is there is this part in the middle, and what we are calling section 3. And once the melody begins, it goes to this F chord. And here you want to be muting your strings, which F is quite helpful for, because you simply have to loosen your hand a bit. And this will dampen the strings, right? So that's another detail to be aware of. Of course, once you go back to A, you cannot fully damp the strings you're not pressing. So you will have to use your right hand as well. So you just put your fingertips lightly on the string again, just as you were playing it before, right? Another aspect is you will sometimes notice that there's this lush, open chords sometimes, which kind of makes the whole thing bigger, kind of more encompassing or enveloping, if is that even a word? I don't know. So you can take, for example, at the end of the I think the second part, the second time we played the section 1. So there you go. So if you pay attention to the song, you will hear this kind of chords sometimes. And what you want to do in order to achieve that is you're playing with your hand here, right? And let you get a good angle with this. So you want to, one by one, action your fingers. Of course, you're going to do this in a faster way, right? But you're not doing everything at the same time. You're not pulling all the strings at the same time, but one by one in order to get this effect. I'm exaggerating this a bit, of course. I'm pulling with a lot of strings, which makes this boink sound, but it's not desirable, of course, but... So you can use this at your discretion if you want to accentuate any given chord at some point of the song. Lastly, we have the use of hammer-on technique. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it's when you action a string, and over the duration of this note, you press somewhere on the string, and potentially also pull. So you're also going to move your finger down when you take it away in order to make this effect, right? So you only activate this string once, but you're producing 2 or 3 different notes with that same action. So instead of you're not actioning your string every time, right? You're not doing this. You're just like, and the song has instances of this technique in several parts across the song. A good example will be section 1. So the melody goes. So this. So you want to listen for this kind of stuff and avoid, let's say, needlessly complicating things by trying to activate the string 3 times or 2 times in notes like that. First, it won't sound nice, and 2, it's probably faster than it's humanly possible, or at least required. So you really don't want to go in there, right? All right, we put together bass notes plus the melody, which makes a big chunk of the song. The one thing we're still missing now is a little more pages to fill in the song. So to give you an example, if I would stick to playing only the melody and the bass notes, you have this bit of an empty sounding song, right? Something like this. Which sounds a bit empty if we compare it to. And this might come across a bit lazy, but I don't really have much of an advice to give you in regards to the arpeggios. There isn't, as I said before, I'm not even sure I played the exact same myself every time. This said, it can be done in a fairly easy way, starting with the fact that your fingers on your left hand will, for the most part, remain in a chord position, which means that any string you decide to activate in order to fill this void will hit a note, which is fine for the song's purposes. So I could go with this E I'm playing here. You hear it ringing right every now and then, but I might as well just stick to something else and it would work. My hand is in a A minor position, so I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this. So any string that's kind of comfortable or that just kind of rings to you in this moment, it will be fine. Some things I do notice on the song and might help you nail it as close as possible is that arpeggios will tend to go upwards in the string. So I'm tending to use higher strings compared to the melody, simply because I'm using my ring finger and my middle finger for the most part in order to do the melody job, which leaves the index mostly free most of the time. So this is just the string either with my thumb or with my index. It's just a string that's comfortable to play at the moment, and it fills the purpose. It works for the song, so I wouldn't much break my head over that one. As I said before in this regards, and particularly in terms of arpeggios, which are, let's say, not integral to the identity of the song. If you have this bass line and this melody on top of that, changing the arpeggios would not change the song to a degree that doesn't make it recognizable still. So this said, I will try to play the song. I'll use a different camera angle and try to just show you what the right hand is doing. And maybe you can just like slow this video down on YouTube, and this might help you figure out what the hands are doing in order to accommodate for this arpeggios and these little fills while keeping the melody going on at the same time. So here's hoping that this camera angle will help, and I'm gonna play the song and go over a bit of highlights on the stuff I've been mentioning so far as I go. So as I mentioned earlier, your thumb will be resting on either of the first three strings, mostly the first two, and we'll be dealing with the bass chords. Every now and then you might have to come down to the fourth string, but for the most part you won't have to. While your other three fingers, in this order you have index, middle, ring, will be resting either on the last three strings or the ones above. So each of these fingers is kind of committed to only one string, and this commitment will only change the string above or below depending on which position you're dealing with at any given time. This is all you need to play the song, really. Keep switching between these positions as required by the melody and as is comfortable for you, and just stick to this. Yeah, so if I'm in this lower position, this finger will for the most part not have to come all the way here or things like this. Yeah, this is quite standard arpeggio technique anyway. So let's go over it. We begin in the higher position. Hammer on. Double string things. So you're using these two fingers to activate these two strings. Well, we've been here for a while, haven't we, guys? But let's recap then everything we have seen so far and wrap it all real quick. Step one, learning the chords, and more importantly, identifying which note exactly you're playing from a bass perspective in that given moment. So step one, getting the chords and bass notes. Step two, learning the melody. And after that, learning how to play the melody while doing the same chords. So let's play that isolated melody while sticking to playing this chords in my hands. And so on and so on. So step 3, I guess we could call it, putting the previous 2 steps together: bass notes and melody. And so on and so on and so on. Lastly, last step, if this were a cooking show, then we would be garnishing the almost finalized thing now with some extra arpeggio candy on top of the bass plus melody thing we put together so far, right? Of course, this is just a real quick wrap up, but you can always go back to the different sections in the video and get into the detail of each individual element of the song. Once you've mastered it, you can go to the next one and start building on top of what you're learning as you go. Well, guys, this is it. If you've survived so far to my endless explanations, congratulations. I hope this video will help you all master the song and will bring you enjoyment in composing the song. I want to thank everyone just for showing interest in the song so far. For sure, let me know in the comments what you think about this tutorial so far. I hope it lives up to expectations, and for sure I'll be curious to know what works, what doesn't, if at some point the explanations were just not enough and didn't cut it, or if on the other hand I just went too deep into details and some stuff. Just trying to make this accessible to anyone regardless of their skill level. And yeah, maybe this song can be part of their guitar and or music journey. I'll be dropping a single link below. If anyone's curious, there's going to be several stuff within this link. There's a link to the rest of my music so far. There's quite a bit different directions out there, so if anyone's curious to check it out, stream it, download it. For sure, it's out there, and there's more to come. There will also be both a PayPal and a Buy Me a Coffee link within this link, so if anybody feels like tipping your server, so to speak, then it's out there. But more than anything else, I'm just happy that the song is getting out there, that people are showing interest, and that the music I enjoy making is somehow finding a place in people's lives. So yeah, as I said, let me know in the comments what you think of this tutorial, and yeah, happy to help. Peace out. Cheers.